Good morning and happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of Get Elevated with Gia, self-proclaimed G-Money. I'm in the studio for season 4, wrapping up season 4. Season 4 was Cannabis and ... This is the episode Cannabis and Cannabis Social Lounges. I'm in the studio with Mr. Scot Rutledge. Scott, hello.
Hi, Gia.
I'm so happy to have you here because you have been on my radar for quite some time to connect with, not just for the show, but because we're both in the industry. So for those of you listening for the first time, this is a show about cannabis. It's called Get Elevated with Gia, Truth and Clarity. We cover all things cannabis. Please go back to Spotify or all the social platforms. You'll find us there and catch us from the very beginning. We've been on the show for a year, Scott.
A year. Congratulations.
I wanted to have you on when I worked out the kinks. So now I've worked out the kinks. I wanted it to be perfect for you.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. So thank you for listening, everyone out there. Returning guests, thank you so much for your continued loyalty. This show would be nothing without listeners. The vision for this show, Scott, so you know, is global access, awareness, and education of this beautiful plant. I want everyone to at least know about it, maybe try it, give it a couple tries, and to see how it can be such an impact in life. And that's really what the show has been about. So today, for those of you who live in Nevada, some very exciting news has been out, I don't know, several months now, that we are going to have what was called consumption lounges. Now I'm going to let Scott talk more about that in a minute. We're calling them cannabis social lounges, potentially something else before it gets finalized. So Scott, thank you for your time today. Welcome to Get Elevated with Gia.
Hi, Gia. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Scott. Just one T on the Scott, though?
Well, the second one's superfluous.
You know what? Fair enough. It's like Scot versus Scott. Yeah? Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
I think it sounds the same whether you have one or two.
But did one just fall off as you got older? Was there ever another T? Did you just decided to get cool and say, I'm dropping the T?
I can't take credit. My mother.
She just did one T because she's like, that's all you need. It's Scott.
Correct. It's not short for something. No. Right? It's a Scot.
Scotledge.
Yeah.
That'd be like a combination
Scotland. But even that's only one T.
Correct. Is it really? I didn't know. Okay. We're already digressing. Scott, put your seatbelt on. It's what I do. Okay. Now, Scott, I would like if you could start with, for those of you that don't know, obviously you've had such a huge impact in our cannabis legislation. Oh, my God.
Legislation.
Oh, my God. Thank you for that.
No worries.
But can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? When did you start cannabis? What else do you do? And then what do you do presently, so people can get a whole background on you?
So
can we do that?
I'd be very happy to do that. So I moved here from Dallas, Texas, where I grew up. I spent the first half of my life, third of my life, in Dallas. I call it a third because I expect to grow to at least 75 years old. So,
yeah, I mean, I would hope more.
Well, maybe, but you know.
Let's go with that.
Let's go with that.
That's fair.
But at this point in my life, it was roughly my wonder years, if you will. I grew up in a town called Waxahachie, Texas.
That's one word, Waxahachie?
It is, and you might know it or ever read it if you read Kurt Vonnegut or follow physics, because the superconducting super.
I follow physics, Scott. What are you trying to say? Should I know?
The planets and the universe and all that.
Really?
Yeah, we're famous because they were going to build this superconducting super collider to smash atoms to try to find. They called it the God particle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I thought DMT is the God particle.
Well, they didn't talk about that then, not in Waxahachie at least.
Do they talk about it now?
In Waxahachie?
Yeah.
Probably not. Probably not.
How far is that from actual Dallas?
It's about a half hour.
You have no twang, nothing.
You lose it if you don't practice.
I gotcha. Did you intentionally try to lose it?
I did, but that was actually when I was still in Texas.
Okay.
And my background is I went to college, and it was a small Jesuit school, and everybody that went to that school was from somewhere else.
Okay.
And they had accents. And so when I went to the workforce, my first job was as a securities broker. Well, my first job post-college was as a securities broker. And I talked to people all over the country, and not having an accent made it easier because they weren't like ever trying to figure out where I was from. They just sort of
distracting sometimes, right? Yeah, I get it.
But I'll drop a y'all every once in a while.
Who doesn't?
So after college and a little brief stint doing that work, I was kind of not doing anything. I was bartending and a little travel, and a friend called me up and said, "Hey, we're working on this medical marijuana project in Vermont, and I heard you're not really doing anything. Do you want to come out and try it? Work on this project, right?
Sure.
So I flew up to Burlington, and I spent about 10 weeks knocking door to door. Sometimes these walks were 10 minutes because it's rural Vermont.
Yeah, right.
And you'd show up and knock on the door with some postcards and say, hey, we're trying to get this bill passed for medical cannabis, medical marijuana. And people would tell you their stories, and they'd write them down. And it was a really cool project to be part of. I came back for the holidays to Texas, and they said, hey, we're going to legalize marijuana in Vegas. Do you want to come out and work on that?
Okay.
So I came out in January of 2004 and never left. And that was my first job here, was to work as a campaign person on that.
Got it. Okay, so let me ask about your use of cannabis. When did that start, and what kind of relationship did you have with the plant?
I mean, my mom would be mad to say it started when I was a teenager, but the first time I tried it was probably when I was 16 or 17.
Sure.
And I was always the guy in my group that, I had lots of friends who smoked cannabis, but even as I got older, I was always that guy. I wasn't really into.
What's that guy, Scott? Which guy?
The weed guy.
Oh, you were the weed guy.
Yeah.
You had it?
I just had it, and my friends that didn't, they always wanted to smoke.
Were you the plug? Were you the plug? You had it? I mean, it sounds like it.
I'll just say that, there's a reason why I think a lot of us should care about social equity programs going forward. To digress, because I think a lot of us, because of our privilege of being white or living in certain communities, didn't have the same hassles and certainly didn't deal with the same heartaches and problems.
Right.
But yeah, I was around it, and I moved out here, and part of working on the campaign was we had to basically abstain because you didn't want folks working on the campaign when it was illegal, getting busted and there being a news story. So I kind of had to take a break for several months.
Okay.
And then just sort of kind of decided, I'll wait. We'll see. Maybe there's something else I should spend my time doing.
Sure.
So probably back in 2004, I stopped consuming for a while, actually.
Okay.
And I worked as an environmental advocate. I ran a nonprofit here for 8 years.
Okay.
And that was another reason why I didn't use cannabis, because I didn't want to be in the headlines. If you do any work in public space,
sure,
right, you just don't want to be the person that gets in trouble.
I hope that changes, though.
It has. I mean, at this point, it's legal here, so there's no getting in trouble. With that,
but there's still a stigma, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think the way you break the stigma is just talk about it.
We should smoke right now.
Right.
We should smoke right this minute.
Yeah. Just say like, hey, you know what, UNLV, not trying to get you guys in trouble.
Right. Bad idea.
Okay. But no, I think it has changed a lot. And I sort of came back to cannabis in this very interesting way. I worked for our local Congresswoman, Dina Titus, for 2 years. And during that time, Nevada had just passed the law in 2013 to create medical cannabis licensing. And so we worked on some stuff together. She had me basically help her engage with the industry. And we traveled to Denver, Phoenix, San Francisco.
Oh, my.
She was the first elected official going to visit some of these cultivations and dispensaries.
Okay.
They would say, hey, our local council person won't even come and take a look at what we're doing here. We heard lots of great stories. And she really used all of that to take that message back to her colleagues in Congress to say, we really do need to support this.
Sure.
So that got me back interested in cannabis advocacy, was working for the Congresswoman for those 2 years.
That's fascinating.
She was a professor here for a long time at UNLV.
Okay.
So for those of you attending UNLV, your cannabis congresswoman was a professor for a while.
So cool.
And so after that, I took the job I'm at now, which is with a public policy communications firm called Argentum Partners.
Okay.
And my first client joining the firm was to help raise money for the legalization campaign in 2016.
Okay. Got it.
So that's how I came back to cannabis.
I love that. We never really leave her, do we?
No. It was a break. It was a hiatus.
A little hiatus, yeah. Scott, may I ask, personally, do you have kids?
I have a partner. Okay. She and I, we just bought a house in November.
Congratulations.
We have 2 dogs. We're dog parents.
What kind of dogs?
Crazy dog parents. We have a pit bull mastiff.
Oh, God, that's big. And
10-pound puppy. And we just got a Bernedoodle.
I don't know what a Bernedoodle is.
It's a Bernese mountain dog crossed with a poodle.
You like big dogs. This big standard poodle, yeah?
It'll be probably 80 to 90 pounds.
Oh, wow. What are their names?
Luna, the pit bull, and Henry, the Bernedoodle.
Luna and Henry. That's adorable. Okay.
They're a lot of fun.
Cool. You bought a house? You're moving when?
We already moved. We moved back in November, right before the holidays.
You said. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Congrats. Big stuff.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. We got a pool. So that's going to be fun.
You have to have a pool here.
Yeah.
You have to have your own dipping pool.
I wish I'd had a pool for all these years. I'd rented a couple of houses with pools. But having our own is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And the dogs are going to want to swim.
Absolutely. Get after it.
It's going to be
so fun. Well,
some puppy pool parties.
Congrats on your first summer coming up with the pool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Scott, before we get into consumption lounges, I was reading in your bio about a little hiatus to Costa Rica. I wonder if you could share with us, what was that about?
That was much needed time off.
Okay.
After moving to Nevada in 2004 and working pretty much nonstop in politics and on campaigns and environmental advocacy for the better part of a decade, I decided I needed to take a little break. And so I went down there and, I spent time volunteering on a farm.
Did you go alone? Was this
No, I was there in a relationship I'd been in prior.
Okay.
And she was actually getting her business degree and at a school there. And so I went with, and it was a great break. I spent a lot of time on my own. They were busy doing schoolwork, and I was just running around, checking out stuff. I'm a runner, so...
Okay, you look like a runner, Scott.
Did a lot of running
I can
and
see that.
hanging out.
Did you run like in college and stuff? Was this always your jam?
No, I played rugby in college. This was just for fun. I run because it's like a...
Got it. Meditative
outlet,
kind of. Yep.
Absolutely.
Understood. Yep.
But I made some great friends that own a farm. They still have that farm today.
Okay.
And I've gone back almost every year for the last several years and
to Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so nice. So this wasn't like you went to sit with ayahuasca and
No, but I'm curious. But if I were going to do that,
Costa
I actually know
Rica.
some folks that are doing that in Colombia now.
Yeah.
So that may be where
I
I'll
know
go.
they're doing it down the road. Everybody's got access to these medicines, which is a whole calamity in of itself.
We could spend 3 hours talking.
We
about
could,
that.
and maybe one day we will.
Maybe we will.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about your work with the consumption lounges. We'll call it generically that. So, do you want to just start with the work, what it took? These are the questions I have. Okay. Where are we at presently? What do you think is the timeline? What are your thoughts on what will be created?
Because there haven't been a lot of forums to discuss this.
Right.
So, your listeners are going to get the inside scoop. We passed the bill this past session, AB 341, and part of what we did with the legislation is we said that the Cannabis Compliance Board, which oversees the cannabis industry here in Nevada, should promulgate regulations. We didn't want a lot of the stuff to live in statute because it's hard to go back and make those changes.
Okay.
So we basically gave a lot of leeway to the regulators to do a very public process through workshops and committee meetings and things like that. And they are very much continuing right now today, looking for input from folks in the industry and the community about the regulations that they drafted and released back in December.
Okay.
We had one workshop then. We submitted comments. One of the clients I work with, Chamber of Cannabis, who I represented to pass the bill during the session, I'm working with still presently today. It had not been for their foresight on this and their effort to say, we want to do this. And as I always say, to be smart enough to hire someone like me. It didn't have to be me, but they needed to hire a professional who does this. And they did that. And so now we're working on the regs. We expect to finish this process probably April.
Okay.
Maybe a little sooner, with licensing opening up first for dispensaries.
Okay.
And then for independent licenses, which will be divided between 10 of those go to social equity applicants. Those are folks who, per the definition right now the CCB is working on, you've in the last 5 years resided in a census tract area that meets specific criteria related to income, over policing, providing social services and other programs, and then of course either yourself, you have a misdemeanor or felony marijuana offense,
Got it.
or you have a immediate family member, spouse, parent, sibling who has a felony cannabis offense. And we know that's why we did that is because if your mom or dad got busted selling weed and spent time in jail, that was a huge disruption and caused a lot of problems for something that we now can do legally, right?
Right.
So social equity, it's our first license in Nevada to have that requirement. I think there's a lot more we're going to do on social equity going forward.
Sure.
It's not just that we should, we will.
Okay.
And then I would say the other 10 licenses, of those, at least 30% of those have to go to a business that meets a diversity criteria, either a woman-owned or minority-owned business.
Okay.
And that means that most of these licenses are going to end up in the hands of people who are not currently represented in this industry as owners.
Okay.
So that was really important to us when we said
20 additional licenses outside of, and so as I understand it, if you have a retail shop, you are entitled to one.
Yeah, and if you own 7 retail shops, you only get one. So
Got
you got to
it.
pick the location you want. And that was out of a matter of fairness, really.
Understood.
We wanted
Yeah,
to
you
make
can,
sure
yeah.
that the independence.
Otherwise, that stirs up what we just went through.
Correct. And
Right.
and by the way, one of the things that will be of interest to folks applying is that it's not going to be a merit-based system for the application. You'll have a pass-fail kind of. Did
Okay.
you qualify?
Okay.
And then there'll be a lottery for those
Oh,
licenses
okay.
or a randomization process. They do that in Arizona.
Okay.
And while we didn't explicitly request that in the legislation, we did discuss this with the CCB during the session and left it up to them to decide, because they get to decide how they issue these licenses. And so we think that lottery process is going to eliminate a lot of the potential for lawsuits and things like that.
Sure. Gosh, let's stay out of that again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the first lounges will open sometime this summer.
Okay.
There's a few dispensaries, retail stores in town I know that have space and have had space available for a while. In 2019, I helped draft the ordinance at the city of Las Vegas for social use venues, and lobbied on that and worked with the city. And they got ahead of this back then. And then the AB 533 passed during the 2019 legislative session that put a moratorium in place. So that ordinance never went into
That's
effect.
right. I remember that.
But companies like
It's
Oasis,
like wheels up, wheels down.
correct.
Yes.
I mean, we had 30 days of that being the law until it went into a holding pattern.
Yeah.
Oasis Cannabis Dispensary, we're one of the groups that we're working on that. I know that they'll probably be one of the first venues to open, I think. That's not because I've talked to them. It's not an endorsement of. I just know that they've had a space ready to go for a while. And they've been very active and supported the Chamber's efforts and supported the efforts in 19. And there's a few other groups like that. I mean, I hear Planet 13 is going to do a big venue.
Of course.
Thrive's got a location down near the Strip. They're talking about doing a cool venue there. There's going to be some lots of venues.
Absolutely.
Probably in and around or near the corridor. Because what we did say in the bill was that an existing dispensary that was within that 1,500-foot boundary from a gaming license, unrestricted gaming license, we said that they would be grandfathered in and allowed to open up this new license type attached to their retail store. We did not think it would be fair, because you were already within that 1,500-foot buffer, that you couldn't get one of these.
Right, that I would
So
agree.
there will be several of these that open up within 1,500 feet, but they're going to be attached to those retail stores.
So for those listening, they have to be attached. Is there any other specific? That's really it, right? It's just, and they can do what they want. I mean,
the type of concepts are.
Yeah, let's talk about the concepts.
I mean,
because that's limitless, right?
It really is. I mean, there's certain things you won't be able to serve or consume alcohol at these. This is really about cannabis, but you can have a restaurant, you can have a comedy club, live entertainment. There's so many things that you can do. And if you imagine it being a venue today that has alcohol and gaming or no gaming, you can't have gaming at these either, right? So, but think of like your favorite tavern or restaurant or bar or music venue. Just pull the alcohol out and replace it with cannabis.
Absolutely.
Right? So sky's the limit. Let's
talk about the serving of cannabis at these, what's being proposed, the single use. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, we're still defining the term single use. I try to always make an analogy to alcohol, because that's a social drug that people use today, and it's easy to talk about it that way. So if you go to a bar, let's say, right, you generally order a beer, right, or a drink, maybe a shot and a beer. And so we want to approach the idea of like, what can I buy at one time as an individual in that same sort of way of thinking. But if there's two of us that go to a bar, we can get a pitcher of beer.
That's right.
Right. And so one of the things that we haven't contemplated yet, or at least made in the official comments back to the CCB, but we're actually going to be doing this week with our updates, is asking for a larger amount allowable for two people, so that it is this sort of pitcher of beer concept.
But then it's two people and their tolerance, because if you had two bud tenders who are more of a tolerance versus you and I going, it's very different.
Well, and here's the thing. That's true of alcohol, though, right?
Totally.
Someone who can drink 15 beers doesn't
right.
get to order 15 beers or a keg, right? Or a pitcher. They have to order them individually. And they'll drink them. So if you have a high tolerance, it doesn't say you can only buy one pre-roll and that's it, or 1 gram, or, one dab. It's just you can only buy so much at a time.
But you can go back up and you can get as much as you want.
Well, so okay, here's a great example.
Yes.
Because we're beverages, right? Looking at these
that was on my
canned
question.
Beverages right here, right?
Talk about it.
So I have a lot of thoughts about cannabis beverages, and they're all really good ones. Number one, if you were to go into lounge today, you would not, like you can at a retail store, buy a 6-pack of, like, say, canned beverages.
Right.
You would order one at a time.
Yeah.
If you can drink all 6 over the course because of your tolerance and other things, that's going to be on an individual basis. You know, the person serving you needs to understand, like, what based on their training, and training is going to be a big part of, of what happens here. Yeah, when you think about it, a retail experience, you're not consuming, so there's only so much you need to really cover and can cover. A lot of it's like you got to go home and consume it and then know, right?
Right.
When you're in a venue, it's live, right? So I'm selling you a thing, and I have to keep eyes on you, and I need to be able to have a conversation with you, and I need to understand your tolerance. And by the way, I should probably have some sense of that before we even get started. Every venue is going to do it differently, you know, but I think that the smart play is to know as much about that consumer coming in before.
Really?
Lounges are going to invite a lot of non-endemic consumers, right? Which is key, because the only way to grow this market is to expand the consumer base.
That's right.
Beverages are a great way to do that, right?
I know. Especially microdose.
Microdose,
you
right?
can't get it wrong.
Correct, because you can't overdo it. And what we all know about cannabis is you can't undo it. No, you got to wait it out.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got some measures, but still, it sucks.
But basically, yeah, if you overconsume, right, you need to take a break. Right? Drink some water, get some fresh air, whatever.
Cold shower.
Something, right?
Yeah.
So I think that with a low-dose beverage program, somebody who doesn't consume cannabis but is curious, wants to try it, wants to go to the venue with their friends who do, well, instead of being left out, hey, try one of these.
Yeah.
You know,
get the warm bubblies.
It's going to be so, like, it's such a small amount of cannabis that so perfect even if you're hypersensitive, you'll be fine, right? And I think that's part of those conversations, though, that each of the hosts or servers or whatever we're going to call them, bud tenders, whatever that is, they're going to need to have conversations with their guests. And that probably should happen even before the venue opens if you're doing reservations and things. Look, and all this could be really great data to inform our industry about what consumers want.
Absolutely. And like a little triage process. I mean, it might take longer, but I think it's going to enhance the experience.
Well, look, they're not really doing this anywhere else. And I tell people this all the time. In Nevada, someone's going to come to a venue in Las Vegas and they're going to go, wow, this doesn't exist anywhere else. Like, right? And yeah, no, it doesn't. There's a couple cities that have them, right?
That's right.
You can go to Amsterdam or Spain, but odds
this will be the Amsterdam of,
way better.
Yes.
Way better.
Well said.
And I think that the reason it's going to be way better is because Las Vegas is the hospitality entertainment capital of the world.
Yeah.
And now we get to do it with cannabis.
Yeah. It's so exciting.
So I think you're going to have a lot of people, just like people come to Vegas and maybe not do certain things, but they come here and do it, like go to a club, right? Or stay up till 5 in the morning.
Absolutely.
Gambling and doing things, right? Because they wouldn't do that back home, but they'll do it here. Now they have a chance to experience cannabis, maybe because it's not legal or there's just no place to consume with their friends.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of people try cannabis for the first time. And guess what? We're going to be able to
so happy.
Observe it, measure it, kind of get some information, some data.
What about overconsumption? Where is the line on that? And how do we manage that, if it's even something to be managed?
I think, again, with cannabis, it's and it's the same when you go to a bar and have a drink, right? The bartenders, the staff working there, they're supposed to be observing, make sure you don't overconsume, right?
Okay.
With cannabis, I think it's going to be looking for certain signs.
It's that sneak up.
And it is a sneak up,
Someone
right?
in the fetal position in the corner. Just saying.
I mean, look, you can go from 0 to 60 depending on how it affects you.
That's right.
It's also important to ask people before they come in, right? Have you had anything to eat? Have you been drinking?
That's right.
Right? Crossfade from polysubstance consumption. So I will say that cannabis, of all the things that you could consume in a combination, right? We all know it's the safest, right? And it's there's almost no harm whatsoever.
That's right.
Right? Other than you not feeling great.
A little paranoia.
A little drop in, a little cold chill kind of thing.
That's all.
But look, I think that's part of the training with the folks that are going to work in these businesses is to understand not only to observe it, but how to mitigate it, how to make people feel comfortable, and then to get them home safely or back to their hotel. Yeah. I think one great thing that the local jurisdictions should do when they're thinking about their ordinances is don't have parking requirements. If you're so concerned about people consuming cannabis and driving, why would you say you have to have parking for all these people, right? Encourage,
ride shares and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Especially the ones that are near the strip.
Right.
And granted, we all know that cannabis, the way it affects people is different, right? And there are a lot of patients who consume daily.
That's right.
Amounts that would put us on our
100%.
on our butt.
Yes.
they're fine.
Yeah.
We know this. And so I think it's really a question of individual responsibility, really, really good training, and having really, open conversations with your guests about what's going on.
I love it. Are we calling them consumption lounges? I'm so stuck on that phraseology.
I mean, the law says cannabis consumption
social lounges. How about we just call them social tonic lounges from now on? Can we just implement that?
You do you. You do you, Gia.
You do you. Fine. Scott, then from now on, it's social tonic beverage consumption lounges. Okay. I am looking through my questions to make sure I've covered everything. Timeline, overconsumption, what you think But as a side note, like, if you could create a consumption lounge, what would it be?
Oh, I don't want to give away the secret sauce, but I will tell you that I can use some descriptions, right? I think it has to be experiential.
Agreed.
When people are consuming cannabis, it is a very social experience,
yes.
right? And we've all been to enough parties, either around MJ BizCon or other celebrations, where the music's loud and people that are smoking together will talk over the music, right? Because they won't want to chat, right?
That's right.
So I think it doesn't have to be a quiet place, but it could, right?
Yes.
But it needs to allow for, one, if you want to kind of fall into yourself a little bit, right? And zone into the music.
I like that, fall into yourself a little bit.
Right.
I do that every night.
I know. Well,
I fall deeper into myself every night, Scott.
I mean, look, I think people
need a life raft sometimes, but I'm good.
I'm not going to ask any more questions on that.
No, I'll do the questions.
I will say that, I think it's got to be a safe place for somebody who, again, needs to zone out, needs to follow the music or be entertained in some other way, but also allow for people to interact. And not just the people in your party, but interacting with the people in the party next to you, right?
Right.
Now, we know right now with the restrictions because of the pandemic, it's a different set of rules. But when we're past this, and we will be past this, and these venues will be open, the idea of being able to talk to the other folks, just like you do anywhere else you
Socially.
go, a bar, a restaurant, it's very social.
Yeah.
But I would want a venue that somebody walks in and the first thing they think is,
I want some can? No, sorry.
well, more to the point.
Did I mention I'm a comic? I'm sorry.
I think it's got to be a place, right, where they say, oh, I didn't know this was what cannabis was about.
100%.
Right?
Paradigm shifting a little bit.
Correct. Yeah. And, a lot of people ask, is it going to be like a hookah lounge or is it like the coffee shops in Amsterdam?
Yes, and.
If you want to, yes, and 100%. And. Or you could say, no, you know what? This venue might not even allow you to smoke because they're just going to do infused dining. There may be a smoking area, right?
Yes.
But it's really about coming in and having an infused dining experience. That is allowed.
Of course.
So I think you're going to see a lot of different concepts, but for me, it's got to be experiential. People have to feel safe and comfortable, and they also need to know that the people that are there that are taking care of them are going to take care of them.
That's
because
right.
As we all know, it's very easy to have a bad experience if you have been drinking, you overconsume.
Right. That's right.
It's not a permanent thing, right? It's a short-lived thing generally. And oftentimes, just to be truthful, these are things that don't happen when we're out.
Right.
It happens when we're hanging out with some friends at the house. So it's a little different, right? We just need to make sure we take care.
Setting and intention.
Correct. Setting and intention.
Right.
And we have to take care of each other.
That's right.
But, it's cannabis. And so those of us who know cannabis know that a lot of the concerns people have, they're completely different from alcohol.
Completely
Ask
different.
Somebody who works in law enforcement or worked in law enforcement that'll speak to you frankly, at least to a person, and they'll tell you they've never have dangerous interactions with people where the only thing they've consumed is cannabis.
Real, I bet they're funny interactions.
Yeah, and they're compliant, like if it's like, hey, you know what, you got me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Sure.
And that's what I think we're going to see in these venues is people just having a good time. That's how we change that. And that stigma and change the paradigm to cannabis. There's cannabis product for everyone.
Yes.
Right. What CAN is doing with their beverage program is proving that, right?
Shouts.
100%. And I think you're going to see more and more entries into the market for not just pre-made cannabis beverages, but imagine a cannabis mixology bar.
I mean, It's
It looks and tastes
yeah,
like some sort of your favorite mocktail cocktail.
that's right.
It's got a little bit of THC, maybe some CBD, some CBG, something like that. And boom, you just had a wonderful experience drinking. And then you wake up the next day and there's no hangover.
You feel great.
You want to go do it again.
That's right. That's our slogan, no hangovers. Did you know that?
Is it?
Yeah. The future of drinking is here. No hangers. No hangers. No hangovers. Yeah.
No hangovers.
Wow. In case you're wondering what kind of consumption lounge I would create.
Yes.
Well, comedy for sure. Like 2 shows a night. You get them in with lots of fun snacks. Like a college snack board. You know what I mean? So it's not heavy lifting with pizzas and cooked food, but like fun snacks, munchy snacks when you're laughing. But during the day, I think I might turn it into like a meditation / yoga, something. I really love the wellness. So I'd put all my stuff under one roof, somehow make that work. In case anybody needs help, I'm here.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
It does. Yeah.
You know, cannabis tea and some yoga.
All of it. Yeah. Like you can be like really holistic and wellness and, that. And then it can turn into awesome laughter at night.
I talked to some ladies that were part of the CEIC, the Cannabis Equity Inclusion Communities.
Okay.
They had a sort of a showcase of some of their cannapreneurs that want to apply for these social equity lounge licenses. They want to do a coffee shop, but really focused on wellness and good quality products, right? Simple.
Right.
I've heard
Poetry
people-
reading. We can do some
Exactly.
stuff like that.
Why not?
Yeah,
Why not,
Everything
right?
is better. Well, cannabis, I love Carl Sagan, who said it best. It's a very sensual plant. Music, lovemaking, art, food is all enhanced. So obviously, 3 out of 4 you can put in. Just saying.
Is the Green Door gonna
it's
apply for a
Vegas.
lounge license?
Oh my God, that's a whole nother.
And the Green Door has a whole other name at that point, whole other meaning,
a
right?
whole other.
Talk about the double
oh my
entendre
God,
there.
Hey, if they're listening, they better get on that. Wow. Anyway, okay. Are we complete with the lounge discussion? Is there anything else you'd want our listeners to know?
I think one other thing I would say is that we are going to redefine what hospitality means in this town
I love that.
with these venues.
I love it.
And that's a guarantee because
Yeah.
there's no other market in the country, in the world, that'll be able to match us on this. So I think it's an exciting time
Yeah,
in the next 2 years as we start to see these concepts open.
right,
And that's the first iteration.
right.
And then people are, wait a minute, I think
Right.
we've got a better idea.
100%.
you know?
So if we have, 40 million tourists coming through a year, what do you think it'll go up to?
It's
Let's
hard,
double it. Let's double it.
It's hard to say, but there are projections, right, that we were going to hit 50 million tourists in Southern Nevada by 2030.
Okay.
So assuming that stays the case,
Ah.
because here's the thing, there will be people that come here because we have cannabis, of course, and lounges and these sort of things. But I think there's people that are already coming here.
Yes.
They're just going to take advantage of that. The same people that come here every year, 3
Right.
times a year,
May not be necessarily.
that drive-in traffic from California, we might
That's
see
a big
them come back
percent.
more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I love it.
So
Oh, surprisingly joyous to live in this city and see how this evolves. Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so we just have a little bit of time left. I want to understand your passion around psilocybin. If you're willing to share some thoughts on that.
I mean, I guess I have to since you just said it.
Well, no, we could.
You can't just say psilocybin and then leave it.
Well, we could. You could say, I refuse.
No,
Pass.
no, of course.
Hard pass.
Look, I'm a big fan of psilocybin and psychedelics, and also just there's so much that's been going on around this in terms of research. There's a lot of new literature out. If you know who Paul Stamets is, right? I mean,
I bought all his books.
yeah,
I saw the fungi. Bought all his books.
Oh yeah, the magical fungi
Yes.
on Netflix
Yes.
and
Can't get enough of
Michael
it.
Pollan, right?
What a guy.
This guy is like the nerdiest author
Totally.
and How to Change Your Mind.
Michael Pollan is
A seminal
genius.
work, I think, in
Yeah.
terms of what it's going to mean for people changing their attitudes and being more open to the idea
Yeah.
that there may be other ways. I have friends in the medical profession, doctors, RNs, anesthesiologists, people that study things like Parkinson's and whatnot. These people very much want to see
Yeah.
more psychedelic
Yes.
research. And in addition, they want to start practicing with it today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people want to heal. They don't want to wait. Yeah.
Correct. And, when the former governor of Texas and, former energy secretary, Rick Perry, right, goes to the Texas Capitol almost 2 years ago, and he's standing on the steps of the Texas Capitol flanked by Navy SEALs and saying, we need to know how to make this, we need to create access
Sure.
for our veterans, to know that there are former 2-star admirals from the Navy that ran SOCOM for the Navy SEALs, right?
Sure.
Has a retreat in Virginia where he's helping treat himself guys that served
Sure.
as SEALs
I
under
love
his
that.
command
Oh my
that
gosh.
need this, right? So if it's something that we're willing to say that at that level, right, all the way down to the person who for 20 years has suffered with depression,
Absolutely
and they
everything.
can't
It's magical.
ever get what they need. They have to
That's right.
constantly being re-prescribed these
Numbed out with
drugs,
medications. Yeah.
right? So psilocybin, just like cannabis, is not a panacea, right? But as an alternative, as an option, it can definitely help either, if not cure, it certainly can help people manage it
That's right.
and do it in a way where they're not having to take 3 pills a day.
Gosh,
So
that.
Nevada, I think, it makes sense that as a state we look at this.
Let's
Oregon,
go.
Washington,
Let's
a
go.
few other states are doing it.
Yeah.
And I will say that I am currently in conversations with some legislators here in Nevada who were interested, who brought this to me as well.
Okay.
It wasn't like I said, hey, they said, no, absolutely, we want to do this.
Sure.
What does it look like?
Okay.
And so I think this year we're going to do a little, take a couple field trips, continuing to do our research and come up with a program that will work for Nevada. That's the hope. We'll see.
Okay.
And yeah, it kind of makes sense that I'd be the guy working on that. You
Of
know,
course.
I managed the legalization campaign. I worked on this legislation for cannabis lounges, and of course psychedelics. Right?
Well, that's like once we get cannabis set, we got to keep moving because there's
Exactly.
more.
Well,
right?
look, there's a lot of work we still have to do on
That's right.
cannabis.
Of course.
But it doesn't mean we can't also put our efforts towards other plant medicines.
Yeah. You can't be behind the game because like it's happening.
Well, and quite frankly, the public's always ahead of where our lawmakers are. And now that the public is way out on this, right?
It's way out.
Way out.
There's out and there's way out. Then that's where we are. Yes. Yes.
So I think that
Okay.
we are going to see something happen next session.
Nice.
And I'll probably be working on that.
I knew that. I'm kind of bummed we're out of town. Out of town. My God.
We're still here.
Did I not have the coffee? Did I have too much of the coffee? I am a little bummed that we're out of time. I usually ask this final question. I have a Mount Cushmore that we are establishing, Mount Rushmore, but it's Cushmore. And I'd like to put you on my Mount Cushmore because of all your work in the state of Nevada and beyond. But I would like to know who would be on your Mount Cushmore. And feel free to include me. I'm just saying. You like that?
It's interesting. There are obviously a couple of representatives, elected officials in the state, Tick
Yeah.
Bloom, Steve Yeager.
I love that.
Have done a lot of work on
Us
this.
too.
I think that Aisha Goines, the work that she's doing on equity and inclusion,
Yep.
trying to right some wrongs. Joe Bresney. Joe Bresney was our campaign spokesperson.
Okay.
He started his efforts to work. He worked on the actual signature process for the campaign that we ultimately passed.
Okay.
But it all started with him getting busted by Secret Service when he was the advance guy for Mitt Romney in the 2012
Wow.
election cycle.
Fun
Right?
story.
Like there are people that have lived these experiences.
Yes.
And I think that they are changing things. I have to give mad props to Tina Ullman and
Of
Danny.
course. Let's put them on the Mount
Aronofsky.
Cushmore.
And you know why? Because those two women, as volunteers, created an organization that are doing some amazing things to bring everyone together.
Yeah.
And I love the work that they're doing.
They're amazing. I love them both.
And there's one other person, and I'm going to give her props because I've known her and her husband for a long time, and that's Lake Martin, who runs the Nevada Cannabis
I love Lake.
Association.
Yes.
Those who don't know Lake are going to know her.
Yeah. She's coming on the show, so like the world's gonna know her real soon.
And they need to,
They do.
because the work
She's
that
very
I know
special.
that she's going to do with this industry, moving the industry
Yeah.
where it needs to
That's
go,
right.
is super important.
Yeah.
There's probably a few more, but I mean, I just think of in Nevada,
I love
those
that.
are the people that I owe a lot to and give credit to. And if I left someone else off, I'm sorry, but those are the ones front of mind.
Scott, if people want to be in touch with you, do you have some place that they can reach you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Scot Rutledge.
Are you the last one on Twitter, Scott? I lost my password on Twitter. Are you on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram at Scot Rutledge.
Okay.
Just look for the
One T.
The one T with the profile with all the dog photos.
Love it. Got
I'm
it.
not on Facebook. I deleted that 4 years ago.
Okay. Winning.
I don't know how long I'll be on Instagram. That might go away. I'm on LinkedIn at
Okay.
Scott-Rutledge, I think.
Okay.
You can cash at me at, no, I'm kidding.
Hey, no one's ever said that. You're so funny. I didn't know we had a comic on here.
You know what? If you have show notes or anything where this lives, I'll get you my email address
Okay.
too and phone number.
We
But
got show notes. I love that.
You can also become a member of the Chamber of Cannabis and attend one of their awesome monthly meetings. I'm almost always in attendance.
That's
and I'm
right.
always happy to pull up a stool
I've
and
missed
have
the
a
last
conversation.
3.
I didn't go to the last one. I
I
was
don't feel
mending
bad.
some bruised ribs and took a little spill running on the trails. Yeah, that was not fun.
Better
But
shoes?
cannabis helped. I literally rubbed some marijuana on it for the last
I
3
love
weeks.
that. Of course you did. I
And
think you were
then
smoking while you ran. Maybe that's why you. Hey, I'm kidding. I have so enjoyed getting to. Will you come back?
I will, absolutely.
We can just make the whole next one super fun.
Yeah, you know what? What we should do is figure out how to do one of these either on location in a lounge,
Yes.
or we'll just come back and talk about them after they've been open.
Yes.
And certainly we can talk about psilocybin in the future when we have something.
Can we have a
afoot.
smoke sesh? Can you and I? Can we do that?
I could do that.
All right.
I could do that.
You'll bring the smokes back for me?
I can bring them.
Okay, good. Good, good, good. No, but you said you haven't been smoking, just maybe doing some cam, but I'd like to full on.
No, it's like funny. The last time I remember sitting down socially and smoking was probably like a year ago.
Oh, we got to bring that back around.
But I like to vape, and like I said,
Okay,
I like my edibles and I like my beverages.
There it is.
So
There it is. There it is. Multi-cannabis. Man. Okay. So we know where to reach you. We know what you're all about. Thank you so much. Actually, thank you for just your insight, your great energy, and for all the work that you're doing on behalf of this magical plant. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is an awesome
Of course.
show.
Thank you. Thank you. For listeners, thank you. Please come back. Download us on Spotify. Find me on Instagram, gia.kubik. And dear friends, as I always like to say, welcome to the future of cannabis. My name is Gia. I'll be your tour guide.